This next bit I picked out because I felt like you and I both being kind of more wallflower type personalities. That this is
Me?
very
What?
relevant for us. From chapter 6, Finding One's Pack and Love for the Soul. She says, "Hold out, hold on, do your work. You will find your own way." At the end of the tale, the swan recognized the duckling as one of their own before he even does. And that's rather typical of the exiled woman. After all the hard wandering, they manage to wander over the frontier into home territory, and they often don't realize that for a time, people's looks have ceased being disparaging, or maybe are just neutral when they're not admiring and approving. And one would think that now that they're in their own sort of psychic ground, they would be deliriously happy, but no. For a time at least, they're terribly distrustful. Do these people really regard me? Am I really safe here? Will I be chased away? Can I really sleep with both my eyes closed now? Is it all right to act like a swan? After a time, suspicions are dropped, and the next stage of coming back to oneself begins acceptance of one's own unique beauty. That is, the wild soul from which we are made. There's probably no better or more reliable measure of whether a woman has spent some time in ugly duckling status at some point or all throughout her life than her inability to digest a sincere compliment. Although it could be a matter of modesty or it could be attributed to shyness, although too many serious wounds are carelessly written off as nothing but shyness, more often a compliment is stuttered around because it sets up an automatic and unpleasant dialogue in the woman's mind. If you say how lovely she is, or how beautiful her heart is, or compliment anything else her soul took part in, or inspired, or suffused, something in her mind says she's somehow undeserving, and you, the complimenter, must be an idiot for thinking such a thing to begin with, rather than understand that the beauty of her soul shines through when she's being herself. The woman changes the subject and effectively snatches nourishment away from her own soul self, which thrives on being acknowledged. So that is the final work of the exile who finds her own to not only accept one's own individuality, one's specific identity as a certain kind of person, but also to accept one's beauty and shape of one's soul and the fact that living close to the wild creature within transforms us and all that it touches. When we accept our own wild beauty, it is put into perspective, and we're no longer poignantly aware of it anymore, but neither would we forsake or disclaim it either. Does a wolf know how beautiful she is when she sleeps? Does the feline know what beautiful shapes she makes when she sits? Is the bird awed by the sound it hears when it snaps open its wings? Learning from them, we just act in our own true way and do not draw back from or hide our natural beauty. Like the creatures, we just are, and it is right. For women, this searching and finding is based on the mysterious passion that women have for what is wild and innately themselves. We've been calling this object of yearning the wild woman, but even when women do not know her name, even when they do not know where she resides, they still strain toward her. They love her with all their hearts. They long for her, and the longing is motivation and locomotion. It is the yearning that causes us to search for the wild woman and to find her. It is not as hard as one might first imagine, for the wild woman is searching for us too, because we are her young. And there's a lot to unpack in that. But I think I can clearly, yes, I have been click, 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 click through all of those stages at some point in my life. You know, yeah, it's
Yeah. Although she did not mention Ellen's goth stage here, so I think that.
well, that was sort of quote unquote. Well, that was an interesting dynamic because it's like, is it the ugly duckling in the sense of like, well, I don't fit in, but at the same time, it's like it's part of the search of finding oneself because you're like, well, I'm just gonna make myself be what I want then, and who cares? Fitting in, be damned. So, yeah, well, I mean, teenagers explore all sorts of things, but